Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 252 of At Odds with Wrestling. Joe and Adam here. Adam, hello. How are you?
I'm doing good, Joe. I've been sweating away in my toy room the last 2 days. The great purge of 2023 is occurring.
Yes. Again, I'll throw this out here. There's a Discord link available. I don't know if you've put a Discord link on the At Odds Patreon.
I did when we first launched the Patreon, but I feel like it might have been one of those notoriously expired links.
Yes. And I checked with our tech guy, and he told me there's a way that you can make a link that doesn't last only for 7 days. So you may want to update that.
Yeah, no, I definitely will.
Okay. But yes, I saw you putting pictures of stuff up. Nothing I want. So toys are going, Funko Pops are going.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going, but like I always do like a Funko purge, like as I run out of space and I'm at that point. And I'll tell you, man, the wrestling figures, especially when I decided I wasn't going to be a completist with Ultimates. Right. I was like, I don't need 3 versions of one character. Like, I don't need a Jeff Hardy Ultimate. You know, like I'm like, let's just keep the top guys. And I at this point, I've only skimmed like very little off the pile, but I've got a couple sales done already on eBay and a couple here and there. You know, got them out with the old and in with the new.
Well, I remember from a while ago when you were posting them up on Twitter. Was there gonna be a purge of CGC books?
I have sold a couple on eBay already, but nothing key. Like, you know, I always say that, like, if the notice comes from the mortgage company that I need to like come up with money and or the house is going, like, I have books that I can move that are like big ticket items. But like over the last couple weeks, I've just been like, oh, I don't really need this. This one's $50. This one's $100. So I have been like, I've sold maybe 10 CGC books since I did my list on Twitter a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago.
Right.
And, you know, it's just mostly to clear space and keep me from having to get an honest living, you know. But it's mostly just the wrestling figures, man, because I could not walk through my toy room. Like, I couldn't even do the Razor Ramon Scott Hall walk sideways. It was because I was just getting stuff, and I was just opening the door, putting them on the floor, and be like, oh, I'll sort that later. But there was no place to put it. So I'm like, I just got to get rid of stuff. And like I said, I'm moving through some of the more in-demand stuff on eBay and in the major group, but it's going to come to the point where I'm just going to have to, like, take it to, like, Pandora's box and be like, here you go, bend me over, just give me what you'll give me for it, you know?
Yeah. Obviously, the wrestling figures are one thing. If there's any comic book stuff in there, you know, you always take it to Dave first, see what he gives you, you know?
Yeah, Dave is my go-to for Funkos. I texted him earlier today from Comics on the Green. I was like, getting ready for a purge, you interested? He's like, oh, send me a picture. He's usually good with that stuff. The hard thing is wrestling figures around here because our local toy store, like the Vintage Toy Store in Dixon City, it's a great store. It's a fine store. They have lots and lots of stuff there, but they have a very tiny wrestling section. And their wrestling section is comprised mostly of him going to Walmart, buying every Elite that's on the shelf, and then charging $30 for it in store. And then, like, when I say, hey, I got all these wrestling figures, he says, oh, well, wrestling figures don't do well for me here. Well, that's because you're buying $20 figures and trying to charge $30 for them. You know, like, people are smart enough to not pay that for a brand new figure.
So I'm going to throw a wild idea out, okay? And this is just something that popped into my head. You tell me what you think, okay?
Yeah.
I don't, like, so the malls around here are dead. If not dead, they're dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be the Steamtown Mall, which isn't even called the Steamtown Mall, Viewmont Mall, Wyoming Valley Mall. I don't know what the cost would be to do like a pop-up kiosk in the middle of the mall. But is that even like a thing that you would consider? Like, I'm going to get the kiosk. I don't know if they give you the kiosk. I don't know if they give you the space. I don't know if you're just like, okay, I'm renting or leasing this little area here. I'm going to set up some tables and I'm going to sell the figures here. Is that even something that could possibly happen?
I I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but like you have to do the math as far as like, let's just say I'm going to use round numbers. Let's say I have $100 figures worth $1,000. I'm just making up numbers there. If I was to buy the kiosk or rent the kiosk, I sell all 100 figures, I make $1,000, but I spend $500 in rent and I work whatever costs me. It takes 100 hours to sell it all.
Okay.
Or I just say, here, random toy store, here's $1,000 worth of figures for $400, and then I don't have to work. Okay. You know, they're just gone in one swoop, and it's a painful bath that you take on the sale, right? But you're just done. You know, and that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, because I don't see them as an investment. I see it as I got the fun of buying them. I got the fun of throwing them on the shelf. And now that I'm done with them, I just want them gone. You know, so the flip side would have been like somebody who doesn't buy or doesn't collect, but goes to the bars all the time or goes to the casino and they have a good time spending money out for the night and they have nothing to show for it. I spent my money on toys. And if I get rid of it, even if I'm getting back 30% of the value, I had my fun, and now I have a little bit of a rebate.
Okay.
If any of that makes sense.
It does make sense. I get where you're coming from. You know, I would regularly do that sort of thing pre-pandemic with my comic books. Like once a year, I would go through stuff and try to pare down at least one long box worth of stuff out of the collection. And then, you know, the pandemic kind of put a halt on that. 2 years ago, or a year ago rather, I was able to get rid of like 3 short boxes worth of stuff, or 4, whatever it was. And then, you know, things just accumulate. And like comics is the thing that, you know, I have a couple figures. I'm nowhere near you or DJ or Brad or any of the other folks that purchase toys like this. But this weekend, everything is up on the walls, That's good. Instead of just in a pile in the office. Yeah. You know, we got to figure things out here. The office is going to need a major remodel here shortly, but that's like the fact that everything's up on the wall finally is like a big step. Yeah. I wish I have no wall space because my toy room is just floor to ceiling shelves. On every single wall. I might do it. It's been a long time since I've recorded or taken photos of my toy room. Maybe I'll do a video and release it on Patreon. You have a YouTube channel. You put it up on the YouTube. You put it up on the YouTube channel as an unlisted video. Yep. And then you put the link to it on the Patreon. Yeah, I might do that. I mean, I got to turn the lights on, get some dusting done, and I'll do that. There you go. All right, well, let's get to the main show. Enough of our trademark patented banner. I was just going to ask you before you did that. I see you were busy this past week without me. I mean, without Todd. Oh, yes. So I recorded the next edition of Conversations with Joe. Young Ed and I sat down and chopped it up for about 2 hours. And the episode, I think, is releasing this Sunday. Is that correct? The 30th, whatever day that is. That is Sunday. Yes, so Sunday. And that's July 30th. Don't be confused by Twitter. Whoever our editor needs to be fired. Yes, so your social media guy, Tim Sterling, needs to be fired. So Ed and I chopped it up. We talked about, Chikara a little bit and then just everything else there. And the way things kind of worked out was, before Ed and I started recording, I reached out to the person who I wanted to have as the next guest, right? I had no idea what they were going to say. And I don't want to give away too much because I sent them a text and I asked them about being on the podcast. And then they replied to me and I read that text during the podcast, the Patreon show. Then I read their confirmation of agreement to do the show next month. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know. It's a wrestler. It's someone who is involved in Chikara and Ashes and stuff like that. And yeah. Excellent. So yeah, Sunday at noon, the post is scheduled to go up on the Patreon, the $5 tier. So not only will you get to listen to quite possibly the longest podcast featuring Ed ever,
Is it safe to say? Like, because, Pod Van Dam is usually like a lean 20 minutes. Hayabussy's like maybe 28, when they throw in some production. Maybe, when he's a guest star on other shows, they go longer, but, Ed's not checked in the entire time. So this might be the longest, like, Ed engagement in podcast history.
Yeah, and listen, I love Ed to death. And I know there's a lot of people that may not love Ed.
Those people are assholes.
And those people are assholes, that's correct. But again, if you have any questions about Ed, or if you want to just like see a little bit of like maybe the real Ed, sign up for the Patreon. And if you don't want to see any of the real Ed, still give us your money.
Yeah. If you hate Ed, which again, inconceivable, but if you hate Ed, nothing would spite him more and really rub it in his face if you were to subscribe to our Patreon and just not download his episode. Like, I'll show him. I have access to it, but I'm not going to listen to it.
Yes.
That'll show him.
Yeah. Now, let's get into the podcast.
Yeah. And now, At Odds with Wrestling presents This Day in Wrestling History.
All right, we are going chronologically.
Okay.
Just because the way that it works sometimes is the way we're going to lay things out. So this day in wrestling history, 25 years ago, we have our head-to-head Monday Nitro versus Monday Night Raw. Sadly, again, as I mentioned last week, none of the NWO late night talk show thing that Bischoff was doing is on the network. And
nobody's reached out to you with any Kabuki-ish clips?
No. I think because they're that bad, nobody wants them. There was very little meat on the bone for this episode of Nitro. Now, this episode of Nitro actually had Goldberg's first ever Nitro, like, in-ring promo in front of a live crowd. He had done pre-tape stuff, backstage, whatever. But he's working after defeating Hulk Hogan for the world title, after not being on the next episode of Nitro. This one, he lays out the challenge to defend the world title against Bryan Adams.
Top guy there. All right.
Right.
So prior to this, like, again, because it's fuzzy and you don't remember Goldberg promos, but aside from him grabbing the mic and saying "you're next" or whatever, he never actually had a promo like in front of the crowd before that?
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
And if you count him yelling "you're next" as a promo, I guess then he's cut hundreds of promos.
Sure. No. I get what you're saying.
Right.
Essentially positive. Hide the negative.
Right. Now, over on Monday Night Raw, it's the night after, fully loaded, pay-per-view, replacing the In Your Houses on the schedule. But we've got a lot of stuff to build up toward SummerSlam, which is just a month or so away. Obviously, you've got your big top-of-the-card angle still with Austin and Undertaker and Mankind and Kane. And then you have, this is the Attitude Era. Everybody's got something to do. Whether what they got to do is good or bad, everybody's doing something, right?
Yeah.
This episode of Raw, features the only non-Brawl for All televised match of Brockus.
Okay. Guy looked like $1 million. I just based on the picture, I was a fan back in the day.
Right.
Plus Brackus was the name of the main villain in Best of the Best 2, which is an amazing movie.
I doubt anyone in WWE knew that at the time.
Maybe. I don't know.
Now, I will say, let's say WWE televised match, I think shortly after this, they ship him off to ECW to be part of Just Incredible's entourage.
Nah, Just Incredible.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. So we also get the debut of the Godfather bringing Hose to the ring.
Oh, nice. Smoke Train.
Right. Smoke Train Charles Wright. This is also the beginning of the Hawk from Road Warriors Legion of Doom is a drunk angle.
Okay.
Again, a lot of moving pieces. But we get two historic moments on this episode of Monday Night Raw. Now, for weeks leading up to this, Val Venus has been feuding with Kai and Tai.
Spotlight on Val Venus.
No, I don't have the music ready, but yes. We're going to talk about this. We're going to play this moment so Kurt's friend will listen to the show, right?
Excellent. Hi, Kurt's friend.
All right, so this famous moment and famous line is uttered on this episode of Monday Night Raw.
With Val Venus. Listen! Kayenta's gonna challenge you next week! Huh? Val Venus, listen! After we win that match, I'll give you a big surprise to you! What is he talking about?
They have a chopping block back there.
Well, that's a pretty subtle message. Choppy, yo! Beep, beep! That's not so subtle. Choppy, Mike. You heard him. I think he's going to try to pull a Lorena Bobby.
It's so bad, and it's definitely offensive by 2020 standards.
Alan Tonka for a tag match here next week.
Funny.
And this is a 3-week angle that we get. We'll review them on the following week's episodes, of course. But yeah, it's a line that people still say to this day. I choppy you pee-pee.
And kind of related but unrelated, when Kai and Tai, were baby faces later on, and they did the gimmick where they were dubbed over, and then I think Funaki just said "indeed."
Yes,
that also lives forever in my head. Don't cancel me, but I find that very funny.
Well, it was Sweet Brucey doing the voices, so I think it's okay, right?
All right, yeah, he gets a pass.
All right, now. I mentioned before we get the first non-Brawl for All match of Brockus on this episode, but Brawl for All is still ongoing here, Adam.
Thank God.
All the first round matches are out of the way. Now, this time, some people would say the odds-on favorite. Dr. Death Steve Williams, going into the second round, is taking on, I don't know, some guy, Bart something or other. Mm-hmm. I'm sure this is going to turn out well.
Well, I think third round, this is going to be it right here. Somebody, win or lose right here is it. Bart Gunn may be behind unofficially, but he can win this thing here in the third round.
I got $20 on Bart.
Well, I guess I made a mistake.
I'll take that action.
Get 5 points for the most punches thrown. It's most punches landed. Break it up. And I think Dr. Death has landed the biggest bombs here. 2, 3, let him out. Let's go, guys. Keep it going.
Those are those boring chants.
Bart is really
more hits.
Really left there. Now, that's not a takedown. No, it's not a takedown. I don't think so. That is not a takedown. You got to control the athlete to get him down. Now, that's a takedown. Yeah, that's a takedown. 5 points.
Who the hell knows what the point system was there? You see Dr. Death's a little fucked up there.
Right there.
Yeah.
30 seconds, John.
Gassed.
He tweaked his knee.
I think Dr. Death's knee is injured. When you go for that single leg takedown like that.
To the left.
They're throwing him. He's right.
Hit the one in the middle.
Oh, he's going to go.
Down goes Dr. Death.
The big left hand by Bart Gunn caught the doctor. He's out. There's our first knockout.
Here is your winner, Bodacious Bart.
Bodacious Bart. Jesus Christ. So yeah, this is the moment, man. Like this, we're talking about it now, but this is one of the most infamous moments in Attitude Era history.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. I want San Diego Comic-Con 2-pack next year of those two with the boxing gloves.
Yeah. They talked about it. They did a whole Dark Side of the Ring episode about this last season. It's still to this day a very touchy subject for Jim Ross. And like I said, it sucks. Obviously they whatever the plan was, and Bob Holly lies about it, and then the story comes out later that Terry Funk kind of told everyone I think Bart Gunn's gonna win,
Yeah.
And nobody believed him, and that this match was a curtain sellout because did we talk about it out here? We talked about it other places. I forget sometimes like the perception of Jim Ross, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where, you know, at this point in 1998 and into 99 and even into 2000, you know, the internet is percolating and bubbling or whatever it is. We were talking, and again, we were talking about the Discord, right? So Jim Ross, the on-screen character, is, you know, whether he was the voice of WCW, NWA, the voice of Mid-South Professional Wrestling, or the voice of this era of WWF. This is how we, the fans, looked at JR. But apparently, being part of talent relations, JR rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, right?
Okay.
And whether it was true or not, it was very well known that Dr. Death and Jim Ross were very good friends. Whether or not this was Jim Ross coming in and like, I'm going to take my buddy and push him down everyone's throat, and he's going to be like the next contender for Austin. Now, listen, in this era, Jim Ross had a pretty good track record of recommending guys to come into WWF, you know, Steve Austin, Mick Foley, people like that. So, like, all right, Jim Ross got a good track record. But whether it be the boys or whether it be Russo and Ferrara, backstage, Jim Ross rubbed them the wrong way. So when Russo and Ferrara leave WWF a year and a half later and they debut Ferrara as the Oklahoma character to fuck with Jim Ross, like, people are like, what are you doing? Like, this is the guy that everyone likes. You know, this is the voice of our wrestling. He's a good guy, right? What are you doing? And then Russo and Ferrara are like, oh, you don't know what a dick he was to us backstage. And that's right, we don't. And we shouldn't know. And, like, for you to take your personal grudge with someone, your coworker or your former coworker, and devote national television time, who's really the asshole?
Yeah. And we've, again, back to the Brawl for All, we've talked about this before, but obviously any kind of push for Bart Gunn was killed when Butterbean murdered him at WrestleMania. And you can argue that, well, a WrestleMania payday against like a household, well, borderline household name, I mean, that's a push. But if they had just pivoted to being like, okay, this guy's a legit badass, now let's go back to worked matches. He had a good look. He was built like $1 million. You know, he was a good looking dude. You know, they could have done something with him there, you know?
Okay. So that's a great point that you make here. So this is July, okay, of 98. And then it leads up to March or April or whatever year WrestleMania was in 99, okay? So Bart Gunn, and again, as I'm looking at this here, now, because they weren't doing anything with Bart Gunn around this time, Bart Gunn was pretty much... Oh, hang on, I got to get to 98. Excuse me, I'm looking at 99. My apologies. I have his cage match up here, right?
Not because it's right, but because it's easy?
Yeah. Okay, so here's the Brawl for All where he beats Dr. Death, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He wrestles a match on Shotgun. He wrestles a match on Sunday Night Heat. He wrestles another match on Raw.
Well, that's a Brawl for All.
Right, a Brawl for All match. He goes and wrestles for the NWA Tag Team titles on an ASW show in North Carolina.
All right. The forbidden door was open in 98.
He beats Bradshaw in the Brawl for All finals the night after SummerSlam. So again, the next time Bart Gunn, and then they send Bart Gunn in November to Japan. Bart Gunn does not wrestle after he wins the Brawl for All. He does, like, I know they do an angle with him on TV, but he does not wrestle another match on TV until that WrestleMania.
I wonder how he was received in Japan. You know, that was a little bit before my time of being a Japanese wrestling expert.
Right.
Like, because they had to, you know, obviously a smart fan base, not like they research stuff and they see that the Brawl for All is, you know, more legitimate than the sports entertainment. So they respect tough guys. So I wonder if he got a hero's welcome.
He did. He teamed with Johnny Ace. And I think that year, he and Johnny Ace, and somebody who is a more Japanese wrestling expert than you or I for this period, they won the tag league in All Japan that year.
Okay.
So he comes back, he does the Brawl for All match, and then he goes back and pretty much finishes the rest of his career for like the next 2 years in All Japan.
Yeah, because they saw it as, well, you got beat by Butterbean, so we can't convince people that you're tough anymore.
Right, but imagine if they did something in between him beating Bradshaw and him having on TV. Imagine if they did anything with him, right?
Yeah.
And you can't say, oh, well, we had nothing for you. Well, it certainly seems like you had something for somebody. You didn't just do Brawl for All on TV just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, whatever your plan was for Steve Williams, who nobody cared about, put Bart Gunn in there, even though nobody cares about him, you know?
Right. Anyway.
Whatever. Yeah.
All right. So also on this day in wrestling history, 21 years ago, yes, that's me, made of dust, Ring of Honor held the event crowning a champion from the Murphy Rec Center in lovely South Philadelphia. I'll be honest with you. A mostly forgettable show. The Texas Academy kids, Michael Shane, Paul London, are still driving up for bookings. There's an AJ Styles versus Adam Jacobs versus a David Young three-way match for the NWA X Division title.
Okay.
But the main event and Adam, you tell your tale of being in Matt Tremont's sweatbox last summer to watch the Daniel Garcia Wheeler Yuta Iron Man match, okay?
Yeah.
It goes an hour. I will put my experience being in the South Philly sweatbox of the Murphy Rec Center in 2002 for the hour-long Iron Man match of Low Key versus Christopher Daniels versus Doug Williams versus Spanky. And the match has special rules because there's more than two people in this Iron Man match. Every time you get a pinfall, you get, if you pin someone or submit them, you get 2 points.
Okay.
If you yourself are pinned or submitted, you lose 1 point. Okay. So in the course of this match, Christopher Daniels pins Low Key. Low Key pins Doug Williams and Spanky. So Low Key ends up getting
he
ends up with 3 points.
3 and then loses 1.
Well, he gets 4, loses 1, so he's at 3. Christopher Daniels gets 2 points. Low Key wins the title, but Christopher Daniels pinned Low Key, so he has stakes and claims to be the first contender for Low Key's title.
That's not complicated at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
This is a show that is sold pretty much on this one match. It's a really good match. But Ring of Honor is still trying to figure itself out here on their, I think, 4th show ever. So
yeah. Well, let me ask you this: as far as the Jerry's Television 100 versus this, did that South Philly arena have public bathrooms? Or I mean, bathrooms that the people in attendance could use.
Yes, they did.
All right. Well, that's already a better venue than the Tremont School.
Did they have porta potties outside?
No, your options were to know somebody like Kevin Ford did and ask to go back to the locker room, or to just pee out behind somebody's car. So that was another one of my issues.
Let's call it a push.
All right, fair enough.
So also on this day, 20 years ago, World Wrestling Entertainment held their Vengeance pay-per-view. This was deep in the throes of the brand split. This was the first ever SmackDown only pay-per-view.
Okay.
An interesting card. I'm sure, if you watch the whole thing and you were following SmackDown at this point, it would be a fun time. But, You get a Brucey cameo in the APA Barroom Invitational Brawl. You get Cena's first, like, touch to the main event as he gets to wrestle The Undertaker. You get Vince McMahon versus Zach Gowen, that they had to pivot because all the Mr. America stuff blew up in their face. But I was definitely, during this time, SmackDown was looked at as the work rate show.
Yeah.
And, you know, if and when we come up to one of the Raw pay-per-views during this era, you'll definitely see why.
And this was when John Cena was doing the rapper gimmick, and he was like at like Undertaker's grave in a cemetery and shit like that, right?
Yeah. I didn't pull any of those clips because they're like all really weirdly homophobic, and like even I have a line, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, it was when John Cena was starting to show some personality, you know. He wasn't just a ruthless aggression guy. Yeah,
it was a different time. You can't judge. I'm just not playing him, you know.
Yeah.
But in happier news, Adam, on this day 17 years ago, as I'm remembering, it's time for another installment of Paparazzi Productions.
Yes.
Two of the finest MPW Madagascar pro wrestling superstars in the entire world.
Where are they at?
Right over there. Let me introduce to you Super Blue Cross number 6 and Samoleon Joe.
Dude, they look like crackheads.
They're the athletes, the likes of which you've never seen, my friend. Are you ready?
Let's get this started now.
Oh, that's it.
Super Blue Cross number 6 at my side. Now watch this, Kevin, okay?
Oh, I remember how this goes. This is so awesome.
I call this the Alex Special number 2. I learned it in Mexico.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Oh, got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Kevin, your turn. Okay, that's
just forearms him in the back.
Effective, nonetheless. We'll work on that.
How about this then?
Underneath them. Oh. All right, that was eerily similar to the last thing. Incoming.
Whoa. Well, that's impressive, but I mean, I've been working on something with the trampoline into my pool at home, which got 3 somersaults in it.
Instead of 1?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Watch this.
Are you sure this is a good idea, man?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Hey, get that other little skinny dude down there in case I do need a little more cushion.
Samoleon Joe, down. I don't know.
Guys. Ready? Here we go.
Incoming.
Almost overshot that one, guys.
Nice.
Saving that's for you, buddy.
Oh, man.
It's at my intercostal. How'd that look?
Incredible.
Oh, so good.
Oh, and again, that's a very visual one, but again, just to show that Kevin Nash isn't just all about his 4 moves and including the hair flip, you know? Very impressive stuff by Big Kev.
Yeah, a triple moonsault, and it's a shame that the TNA camera just missed it, you know?
Well, he jumped over the camera. It's, you know, it happens when you have that sort of vertical.
Yeah, they were shocked by how much height he got.
Yeah.
Impressive.
But we're entering a prime era of the Paparazzi Production stuff, and I will be very sad when they are done.
Yeah, I was, as I said many times right before I go to bed, I turn on my TV in my bedroom and the TNA channel, the Impact channel's on. And I think last night or the night before, there was some weird, like, 8-man X Division match. And it was the Paparazzi Production era of Alex Shelley. But the commentary was mentioning Nash, but he didn't come out, and I was sad. But it was like Sabin, Shelley, Jay Lethal, Shark Boy. I forget who else was in it, but I think
Sanjay Dutt.
Possibly, yeah. But I miss that era.
Yeah. Well, it's part of that era exists over on AEW, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, everyone's a little different now. It's been 17 years or whatever the hell it is. All right, let's get into some discussion from this last week, Adam. Where would you like to begin, my good man?
I'm gonna say right off the rip, I didn't watch a ton of U.S. wrestling this week. I've been staying up all night watching the G1. I don't want to go into a lot of depth on that. I don't want to step on Brett and DJ's toes. But the first thing that kind of popped me this week, and this was spilling out of the ROH pay-per-view and into Dynamite, the there was a little bit of involvement between the Best Friends and the Blackpool Combat Club at the pay-per-view. And then on Dynamite, we got Orange Cassidy versus AR Fox. And after the match, obviously AR Fox doing his heel turn. At that point, just kind of starting it. We got the payoff later on in the show. But, Orange Cassidy gets, knocked out or hit by AR Fox. We think, okay, we're going to commercial. And then, holy shit, Orange Cassidy's getting jumped by Jon Moxley. And for a second there, I was like, this is cool and this is bad for OC. And then I was like, we're going to get Orange Cassidy versus motherfucking Jon Moxley. And I am both super excited, but also terrified. And I'm really excited for that. And it's awesome that when some of your favorites are working a program with each other, that's always cool. But it's also exciting that we're going to get to see, I don't want to say two different styles, but two different styles. And the fact that OC usually has the comedy wrestling and Moxley usually has the I'm going to kill you hardcore wrestling. And we're going to see a different gear out of OC. And I think it's going to be an amazing match when it happens. And I hope it's just not just given away on a random Rampage. And I think we're going to have another one of those matches. I always look back at when OC had the world title opportunity against Kenny Omega and Pac, that three-way, where it was just Orange Cassidy being like, I'm going to show you how good of a goddamn wrestler I am. I think we're going to get that when we do get Orange Cassidy versus Mox. And I'm looking forward to it. I also just hope that that's not the end of OC and his All-Atlantic, Mid-Atlantic belt, Yeah,
this is in my notes too. I love OC. You never know where guys are going to end up after things. And obviously after the feud with the Elite, it looks like they're kind of pushing the rest of the Best Friends kind of up to do something with the Blackpool Combat Club. And sure, you can kind of look at it as a lower card program. Trent and Chuck are not on the level of, they might be they're a little bit below the level of even Wheeler Yuta at this point, just by association. But the money matches either, listen, we're gonna get a multi-man match between these six guys. We're probably gonna get an Orange Cassidy versus Claudio match on TV at some point. Okay,
yeah,
that's gonna be badass.
Oh, 100%.
I wouldn't be surprised. And again, I know we try to stay positive. We want to talk about the negatives in the world of professional wrestling from this last week. We could have been here all day into Friday or Saturday, depending on what shirt you're wearing.
And trust me, I'll get into the negatives on my next point.
All right. But I wouldn't be surprised if Orange Cassidy versus Jon Moxley is the match for either the Wembley show, and I forget which one is All In and All Out. I forget which is which.
All In is the Wembley because that's the returning show from pre-AEW.
Okay. So whether it be All In or All Out, I wouldn't be surprised if we get OC against Moxley on that. That's a big enough of a match, and it's crazy that we live in a world, and it's awesome that we live in a world that Orange Cassidy is at the same level as a Jon Moxley. And I got a big smile on my face as I'm talking about it,
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I said many times before, I'm not as invested because obviously Orange Cassidy and I'm just a mark. But when AEW started not many years ago, 3 years ago, Orange Cassidy wasn't getting televised entrances. He was just a guy at ringside, sometimes in the crowd or in the back round of a Best Friends promo, and the way that they've built him up and he's built himself up with this, what did they say, 27 defenses of the title, super impressive and well deserved.
For sure.
All right, what do you got?
Well, like I said, I had that. You mentioned about Eddie doing great stuff over in Japan, where they'll be having great matches, going to the Ribera Steakhouse, getting the Mark picture with Kenta Kobashi, as I started to talk like Eddie a little bit there. The fact that Eddie is getting a chance to live his best life for a month and a half before he has to come back to the United States. And I've seen some of the matches that they have scheduled for him at the end of August. Let's just say maybe the middle of September will turn around for Eddie. Holla. But Let's talk about Collision. My favorite part of Collision this past week was Christian. Christian coming out and cutting that promo on Punk, being in the main event, teaming with Ricky Starks. Christian is one of the best legends that they signed, of any sort of, whatever you want to call him, a WF cast-off or whatever. But every time Christian is on TV, he delivers. I mentioned the promo when he comes out holding the TNT title and he chastises Punk for claiming to be a champion of a belt he didn't even win.
It's a great bit.
Oh, what a scumbag. He's the best.
Yeah, and obviously he posted that thirst trap last week. He looks like $1 billion. You know, he's amazing on the mic. And it's funny, like, I was watching that match, and it's not my notes, but it was a great segment. Other than the fact it just went on way too long. They shouldn't have given those guys a full, 30 minutes. That was a little rough. But it's funny. Like, all of a sudden you have Darby being like, oh, my good friend CM Punk, and putting his arm around him. I'm like, who is that benefiting? Because I think it hurts, Darby in that sense.
And depends on the crowd, I think.
Yeah. And I think the crowd is definitely not behind CM Punk unless they're in Chicago. Like, I feel like everybody's turning against poor Phil. And I don't know what they're like. Is it like they're refusing to turn him heel because he doesn't want to, or just not willing to accept it? The crowd does not want to cheer CM Punk anymore. So that kind of made it feel weird. But Christian, when I forget if it was who said it, but they were like, oh, well, I want the champion, the TNT champion. And Christian's pointing at himself, and he looks over at Luchasaurus, and he's like, oh, no, I mean you. And he's pointing at himself again. Great stuff with him being the quote unquote champion, but the CM Punk stuff, kind of weird. And I am a Phil Pill person, but I'm just not getting what they're currently doing with him.
Yeah, listen, I had the vaccine for Phil Pills about 20 years ago. I'm good. I know it. I can see what's going on with CM Punk. I'm going to enjoy it along for the ride. I don't need to enjoy him or be a fan of him to have fun with all this. And just as a side note, you mentioned the Christian thirst trap. If you're not aware of this, about a week ago, Christian posted a picture of himself all jacked and tanned and unshaved. Hang on, let me slow down. He says, I wrestle in a turtleneck because I put wrestlers half my age to shame, 49 and in my prime, right?
Yeah.
As the caveat to that, I don't know if you saw Xavier Woods' reply to that.
No, I didn't. I haven't been on Twitter in 2 weeks.
Oh, you're missing out, man. I wouldn't know. You're shadow banned. Xavier Woods says, and as a wise Canadian veteran once told me, let me know when those abs start making you money, kid. Because that is absolutely something that Christian, and again, I'll throw this out here, and again, I'm going to make a plea to people for Lost Media, right? I'm a Lost Media fan. I catalog a lot of stuff, and sometimes things slip through my purview because you don't realize what you got at the time, right? Mm. If you, as a listener of this show, by some chance have any of the audio files of the old Edge and Christian podcast laying around, let's talk, pal, because those have been scrubby-dubbed from the internet. You cannot find them anywhere.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Any particular reason why, or just...
no clue.
Because I feel like... Were they owned by WWE? Were the podcasts owned by WWE?
No, I think it was a Podcast One deal. I know the Edge and Christian show that they did is still on the network, but that's not the same as the podcast, of course.
Yeah.
Because the podcast was, things got a little raw, because I think either one was under WWE contract at the time and one wasn't when it came to Edge and Christian. And because it used to drop on a Friday, I don't think anyone at WWE listened to it. And then I think once the negotiations started to come of Edge going back to WWE as a full-time in-ring competitor, they did the tweet delete on the podcast and scrubbed them.
Yeah, that I can get it if it was pressured from either the office or if they were just worried that they said something that can get them in trouble. But if that wasn't the case, like, why not leave those up there and just get that ad revenue, you know, because people are going to go back and listen to it. But that's interesting. I didn't know it was scrubbed.
Yep.
All right, but yeah, Christian, good place. I'm really enjoying this. I think he's got this. He's a young upstart. He's got a bright future in this business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stick with Collision because I've said many times before, I am not a collider. So I do look at the show with a more critical eye than a lot of our audience. But again, not to put over Brett and DJ again, but for months now, they have been championing the burial of one Taya Valkyrie. And I've always been like, I don't have a horse in this race. You know, she doesn't do anything for me, but she's not objectionable or anything like that. You know, she beat a bunch of people, then lost to Jade Cargill. And now she's going after the Britt Baker or whatever. I don't care about any of that, Joe. But what I do care about is the fact that they had this nobody in Taya Valkyrie defeats Sky Blue on her. Like, it's unacceptable. You're going to bring in this person who's never done anything anywhere, who's never drawn a dime, whose one figure ever made sold for $2.99 on Ringside's clearance sale for last Christmas, and you're going to have her beat the person that I'm going to go right now, Joe. I am making a declaration and saying, with Tay Conti out of action, Sky Blue is the face of women's wrestling.
The face?
The face. And you're going to have Ty Valkyrie beat the face of women's wrestling? Unacceptable. Unbelievable. I am fully in the camp of Brett and DJ. Get Taya Valkyrie off of my screen. I was mad. I almost shut off the show. Luckily, I stuck around so I can see Christian later, but I was big mad.
That's all you got to say about Taya Valkyrie, huh?
I do. Well, I can go on and on. I mean, I don't want you to play the jingle, though. It's okay.
All right. I'm not going to play the jingle. Let's just say she had a rough week. How about that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Adam, is the last thing I got, and it's maybe the most important thing on the show. And if they're an on-screen active competitor in the World Wrestling Entertainment, I would be remiss not to talk about LA Knight. All right. I should have a lower version of this so I can talk over it the whole time. But again, another banner week in the career of a young LA Knight. Granted, he did not come out on the winner's end of the match to go on to see who's going to take on Austin Theory at SummerSlam. I think that's maybe for the best.
Who did he wrestle? I didn't watch any WWE.
It was a 4-person eliminator with Cameron Grimes, LA Knight, Sheamus, and Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio won, and then Rey Mysterio is taking on Santos Escobar on SmackDown this week. And the winner of that is going to get the match with Austin Theory at SummerSlam, right?
Okay.
Now, again, it stinks, and the groundswell of social media fandom of LA Knight has just been growing and growing and growing. And I will admit here on this podcast, it has even surpassed me, right? There are people who are much more obsessed with the LA Knight stuff than I will ever be, right? And
how is that possible?
Listen, go on Twitter, go on any social media platform, right? I know a couple of weeks ago I was comparing numbers and YouTube segments and, you know, their views. But the problem is now that there's this light being shown on what LA Knight is doing and the fandom is starting to grow and swell behind him, you need to be careful of misinformation. There was a story that was going around this week, and listen, I bid on it at first, right? That they said that currently on World Wrestling Entertainment, the top 4 of the top 5 selling shirts on WWEshop.com or Shop Zone or whatever the hell it's called, right, were the LA Knight shirts, okay? And that number 1 was the Cody Rhodes shirt. That's a great story, okay? I don't know if I believe it. I like LA Knight a lot, but are you telling me there ain't like one legend shirt that's snuck into that top 5? Are you telling me that there's not?
Does he even have more than 2 shirts?
He does, actually. So there's the original LA Knight shirt, right? Then there's the new LA Knight shirt that comes. Okay, so there was the original one that comes in either red, black, or blue, right? Mm-hmm. That just says LA Knight on it. Then that's 3 different shirts because it's 3 different colors. Then there's the one that kind of is made to look like the old 90s t-shirts where it has him on it doing a pose and it says LA Knight. Then there's the one that says yeah, and that comes in either yellow or red. So he technically has 6 shirts on WWEshop.com.
Gotcha.
So are you okay? I'll give you Cody's number 1, right? Cody's got more than 1 shirt. Are you telling me there's not a Roman Reigns shirt that's in that top 5?
Sammy, Kevin Owens, Usos.
One-line shirt.
Yeah.
An Usos shirt, a Sammy or Kevin shirt or something like that. Or even like I said, a Legend shirt. So.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
Believe me, I'd love to buy it. I'd love to believe that this is a true story. But I think because he's getting what he is, the attention that he is, you're going to and there was another story that went around that the headline just read, LA Knight being depushed because he doesn't play politics the right way, he rubbed people wrong backstage, and so on and so forth. And there's news sites that are putting that out as a story today, and that's the headline. And if you read the story, it's them recounting his previous stint in WWE, specifically NXT, and why he was let go from there.
Yeah, they're reading into a current storyline result, basing it on like past things, you know?
Right. And if you're an LA Knight, if you're drinking the LA NyQuil like me, right? Click the links, read the full story. Let's not work ourselves into a shoot. I'm already there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not work ourselves into another shoot. Now, they've said LA Knight's got a segment scheduled for SmackDown this week where he's going to announce his intentions, his plans, or whatever it is that he's going to be doing at SummerSlam. As much as I am invested in LA Knight, I'm not invested enough the same way that I would be with an Eddie Kingston or an Orange Cassidy or an Ethan Page or somebody like that, right?
Yeah, because it's like this LA Knight thing started as a bit and it became enjoyable. You know, it's
there you go.
Versus like people that you legitimately like are friends with. You know.
Yeah, and I brought a lot of people along with us, and then I saw the movement become a much bigger thing, and obviously the same kind of holds true for Eddie and OC and stuff like that. But but
those aren't with a wink. LA Knight was kind of with a wink.
Yeah, but I'm on board. I'm a fan.
First.
But it's not the same. It's a little different. And I'm not. I want you to. I also want you to know that I'm not walking anything back. I'm still a fan. I'm still gonna. I'm still gonna retweet the stuff Friday night. I'm gonna push all the clips and everything else like that out. But I'm not I don't want to work myself up that like, oh, this big great thing is going to happen and he's going to come out and announce that he's the host of SummerSlam, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think no matter what he does, as long as he's actually on SummerSlam, whether it be a match or a promo or he's throughout the card or whatever it is, that's great. I can't be upset if it's just the host, or I can't be upset of like, well, he comes out and then like the Undertaker returns and the Undertaker squash them again, right?
Yeah.
I just got to take it at face value, let it play out, hope for the best, and hope eventually we get to that point where we get that one big moment, title win, big match. Logan Paul was on something this week doing an interview somewhere, and he spent a lot less time promoting his match with Ricochet and a lot more time promoting LA Knight. So again, things are coming, but let's be patient. How about that? Let's be patient.
Yeah. And it's just kind of off topic, but you mentioned LA Knight wrestling in that 4-way match against like Rey Mysterio and somebody else. And, goddamn Cameron Grimes, like, I don't watch WWE programming anymore, but I saw the fact that they brought back Cameron Grimes in the last like month or so, I think during the draft, and he's just like a guy. How amazing And this is going to be just one of those like, oh, do you remember when? Like, how amazing was it when you had Cameron Grimes as the GameStop billionaire versus the $1 million megastar over the $1 million belt in NXT? Like, remember when like you cared about something that happened on NXT and like both of those guys were over and then they just didn't like drop it off the face of the earth? Like, very nostalgic for that right now.
Well, his debut feud on SmackDown was against Baron Corbin, and he did send Baron Corbin back to NXT. So it's all cyclical, right?
Yeah, but like he doesn't even have like the hat anymore, like the long beard, and he's not rich, and like he doesn't say "to the moon" anymore.
Yeah.
So they just stripped him down. He's just a dude. He's basically what he was in Impact or Global Force when he was teaming with Myers.
So I just want to throw this out here real quick. So the Edge and Christian Pod of Awesomeness, the last episode was from September of 2019, and then the feed went inactive on January 19th, 2020, which, if I'm not mistaken, was a week before Edge made his return at the Royal Rumble.
Okay.
So however it was, whoever they had their feed through. Like you could go and find the podcast on any podcatcher, run the RSS feed through anything, but it doesn't work anymore.
Gotcha. So all those things that you have on the screen, you can't hit play on those?
Nope.
Nah, it's a shame.
Just so you know, just because I know someone's going to be like, oh, here it is, I found it. It's a dead feed.
Got it. All right, well, do you have anything else, Joe?
No, that's my last thing.
All right, did you watch Dark Side of the Ring?
I did watch Dark Side of the Ring. This one about Bam Bam Bigelow. Obviously getting into his rise. And I like that they spent a lot of time on his early days, his pre-WWF days, before he got into wrestling, that sort of thing. Because I think people might have known that a little bit. But it's been, however long it is, like 35 years, right? Mm-hmm. So unless you were an Aftermag reader or a dirt sheet reader in the late 80s, you may not remember or know a lot of that stuff. And, as a kid growing up, this is a guy who appeared out of nowhere on WWF TV. I wasn't familiar with Memphis or anything else like that. And he shows up in summer of 87 and he's a huge deal. And then he makes it to WrestleMania 4 in 88 and then he's pretty much done. So he has a less than year run in that initial run with WWF, and he gets an action figure. He gets in the video game. So there was big plans, and they kind of intimate there. He runs afoul of Andre, and then his career is kind of really never the same after that.
Mm-hmm. I will just say I liked the episode. Like, was I entertained watching it 100%? And did I learn a lot of things? Because you mentioned, like, if you weren't an Aftermag reader in, like, the early 80s or late 80s or whatever, like, I didn't know about his history as a bounty hunter and going to Mexico to get a girl that was kidnapped. Or I didn't realize that his cup of coffee in the WWF was so brief. Like, I just thought he was around forever,
Right.
Like, I forget all the time that, he left, as you said, after WrestleMania 4 and then went to Japan. Like, I always just imagine his match with Lawrence Taylor at WrestleMania as being like the culmination of this long 12-year run in WWF. And like things like this remind me of that's not true. But here's my criticism for this show, this episode, and this has been my criticism for many episodes this season, is this is less like the traditional Dark Side of the Ring format, and it's more VH1 behind the music, because it keeps being like, here's a wrestler, here's a little bit of their origin, here's how they rose to fame, here's how they fell back. And like, there isn't that one big, I don't want to say scandal or incident or whatever to kind of base the show on. These are A&E biographies, but instead of it being about like Stone Cold or Mr. Hitman, it's about the people that might have had a little bit more of a tragic story. And that's fine. It's just, I that's not what I want from Dark Side of the Ring. I want like a story told about like something that happened in wrestling, not here's just a very quick glossed over life story of a wrestler who died too soon or got hurt too soon.
Okay, I get you. I think maybe. Okay.
Because it's like we got Junkyard Dog, which was pretty much the same thing. You know, like here's a wrestler that rose to, you know, astronomical heights, got a drug problem, fell down low and died. You know, and I'm not trying to diminish it, but it's the same exact story. And it's like, here's some information, some footage you might not have seen, a little bit of biography stuff that, you know, people like me wouldn't have known. But it's like, we're just going to do this with every wrestler from the 70s and the 80s that isn't with us anymore, because every single one of them did drugs and partied. You know, a good percentage of them, you know, died early. So it's like, we're going to get next season, here's your Rick Rude episode. And it's like, all right, you know, we'll spend 2 minutes talking about the night he was on Raw and Nitro at the same time, but the rest of it is about how, you know, he hurt his back and he got, you know, hooked on drugs or whatever. Then we're going to get not Kurt Angle. Well, maybe Kurt Angle. We're going to get a Kurt Hennig episode. And it's just like, this is so far away from the like Montreal Screwjob, the Benoit, you know, allegedly killing his family, the Owen Hart tragedy. Like those were the things that were like Dark Side of the Ring was really hooking me for, but it's just becoming, many of the episodes are just becoming like, here's a tragic story of a wrestler. And again, I'm going to keep watching them, but like, I'm like, oh, again, you know?
Do you think maybe they ran out of the big, juicy, sexy stories to do?
Oh, 100%. You know,
okay.
It's like, how many like stories have crossed over into mainstream news, like the Benoit or the Owen thing or whatever,
right?
Or are just legendary in sports and entertainment, like the Montreal Screwjob, or, you know, debacles like the Herb Abrams episode. You know, things like that have almost run dry. And, you know, you're not going to do an episode on Paul Heyman like stiffing a bunch of people out of pay and like the fall of ECW, because you got, you know, people are still invested in like, you know, interactions with the guy. But so,
right, and that's I think is their biggest problem. I was actually talking to Kevin Ford the other day, and we were talking about like the Eddie Gilbert Paul Heyman relationship, and all this stuff is, you know, that's out there in the newsletters because it was Eddie and Paul feeding this stuff to the newsletters from as early as like 1988, 89 up into today with Paul, right?
Yeah.
So there's proof of stuff that they were leading, you know, giving to the dirt sheets. There was stuff that we saw happen, whether it be on TV as part of the wrestling program or the behind the scenes stuff that has come out. If they were able to get Paul Heyman and have him just sit there and lie and say none of these things happened, I think that would make for an interesting episode. The other problem is, obviously, is it's tough to get guys like Mick Foley comes on and does this because I think Mick doesn't give a fuck, right?
Yeah.
But you can't get anyone who even has a WWF Legends deal or even a tangential Legends deal anymore because they're afraid of being ostracized by WWF. Mr. Hitman's another one. Mr. Hitman doing the episode with Adrian Adonis, right? Brett's a guy who just doesn't give a fuck. But there's too many guys that are out there that like, I need that Legends paycheck. I need that. Maybe they'll call me for a Raw next time WWE comes to my hometown. Now, the other thing is, and I just want to throw this out there, there is dark stuff out there. I think they're afraid to talk about it. You mentioned Rick Rude. Do you know how Rick Rude died?
I just always assumed like his heart exploded from pills or something like that.
Okay. However it is that Rick Rude died, whatever they say in the autopsy, okay? So there's rumors that Rick Rude died because he was trying to inject steroids into his dick. Okay? If they do a Dark Side of the Ring episode about Rick Rude, and that's the only thing they talk about for the 44 minutes, we're back in business.
Yeah, I could just, obviously, I hope the show gets renewed. I hope many years of success. But I guarantee you, like, next season, you're going to have either, like, an Eddie Guerrero episode or you're going to have a British Bulldog episode where it's just like, here's a wrestler. They were big in the 80s or the early 90s. Then they got their big break and they were a superstar. Then they died too young. And here's some people from their family being sad about it, just rightfully so. But like, that's the formula for some of these fill-in episodes. Because like you said, they've run out of the big juicy stories that they can tell.
And another thing is, I think they're afraid of blowback. I'm going to point to the Plane Ride from Hell episode. Yeah. Where all the fallout from that, and Tommy Dreamer has to issue an apology, and then Ric Flair gets his, like, 11th soft canceling.
Lasted, like, 2 months, if that.
Yeah. So I think maybe they're a little gun-shy on going that far with people that are still alive. Of really getting into the juicy, dirty, stuff where the law was involved stuff.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of like other stories or even more modern stories that they can tell. Like, and the first thing that pops into my head, it would never get told because of what you said, people not wanting to burn bridges or anything like that. But like doing something about the speaking out movement and how many wrestlers rightfully got burned and how like indies keep wanting to book these people and it, like that kind of stuff, like would make a great episode that would be unique to a lot of the other episodes. But it's like, A, you're never going to get these people that have allegations about them to show up and defend them. And B, you're going to be hard pressed to find name people that'll go on television and like condemn them. Nobody wants to book for the producers aren't going to bring, here's all of these indie people that spoke out because they're not Mr. Hitman. They're not, Paul Heyman or whatever. Right. But that's a story that hasn't been told, and that would make a good episode. But like, as you said, we're just going to get, here's another wrestler who died too early,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I enjoy the episode. Long story short, I really like Taz on there. Taz is the man, obviously. Him telling the story about the trap door for the ECW trap door. I thought that was great. And Bam Bam, he had his issues, but like otherwise he seemed like a lovely person. Everybody had nice things to say about him. Nobody talked about him being like hitting a women or anything like that. Just he let drugs get the best of him. It was a good episode, but again, I just hope they don't keep doing this formula.
I'm afraid they are going to be.
Yeah.
But again, let's hope, we start off season 4, season 5, whatever the next season is, talking about Rick Rude's dick, right?
Now, do you inject the steroids into the dick because it's a better injection point and it's more effective across your body, or does it just make your dick bigger?
See, these are questions that Dark Side of the Ring needs to answer.
This is true. All right. I take back everything I said.
Yeah. Get a doctor on there. Let's investigate. Let's, see if this is true. Let's go old school, Donahue, Geraldo, Morton Downey Jr. style. Let's ambush people. It's like, oh, we're going to talk about a nice fun piece about Rick Rude. And then we get the wife in the chair and we're like, so we understand your husband injected steroids into his dick. Do you care to comment? Let's go.
Yeah, because I feel, Joe, that steroids are the next logical progression.
I usually have this ready for the plugs, but
I need anabolic steroids from this doctor right now. Anabolic steroids is a logical next step.
Not next step. I apologize. I screwed that up, but
so hey, there's no pay-per-view this weekend, so it's homework time.
Correct, and I believe you have a retraction/apology to make.
That's right. I'd like to apologize to my wife, Nancy, for the Jessica Hahn hot tub incident. It was stupid, and it'll never happen again. And please don't make light of this. Or if you listen to our Patreon episode talking about shutter speed, I said that the next thing that we're going to be watching was an episode of WCW Saturday Night. So the way that WCW was taping Saturday night at these times is they would do a live Nitro. They would do a Thunder that would tape and air. So Monday was Nitro. Tuesday they would tape Thunder. And they would air that Thunder on Thursday. Then the next day, on a Wednesday, they would tape 2 episodes of WCW Saturday Night. one that would air that Saturday and the one that would air the following Saturday. So Saturday night was on like a 2-week rotating schedule. I looked at the wrong week, so we're not going to watch WCW Saturday Night this week. The one that I mentioned we will watch, but in chronological airing order, we're up to the February 7th, 2000 episode of Monday Nitro.
Okay.
And our card looks like, and again, I know it's going to sound very familiar, Norman Smiley taking on Evan Courageous.
All right, 3 count. I like it.
The Wall taking on Booker. And again, bear in mind, he's not Booker T anymore because, right, he lost the T. A shoot fight rules match as Tank Abbott takes on the Barbarian.
Oh, like Brawl for All.
Yes. An I Quit match of David Flair versus Terry Funk.
I hear good things about Flair versus Funk. People talk about that.
I have a feeling this ain't going to be the same, right? Stevie Ray taking on Disco Inferno. For the hardcore title, Bam Bam Bigelow is taking on Brian Snuggs of the Snug Boys. Billy Kidman is taking on the Demon. I'm sure the Demon will continue his winning ways.
And will Tori Wilson be there?
I don't know that much that far. And then the main event for the world title is Sid defending the title against Scott Hall. So we got a marquee match of 2 stars in the main event. The rest of the show, I don't know what to tell you. I've never seen this show in my entire life. I don't know what it exists like on the network. Who knows if it's up there in full? I think there's something up with Dropbox where like you have to ask for permission to the files now. I will grant you permission to the file as I get the notifications to do so. If you're in the Discord, I'll post the link to the Dropbox thing in the Discord as well. Probably the easiest way to get all that stuff out to folks, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that when I post the stuff into the Patreon, it used to just have the video in the listing. Now it's like a link to Dropbox, and it works for me, no problem. But I know Kevin Hellion said he was having issues. So
yeah. I gotta. Like I said, there's something up on something changed with the preferences on Dropbox. I'm not sure if I could figure it out. That might be above my purview.
We got to get our tech people on this.
Yeah, our tech guy fixed our Discord problem. I think our tech guy could fix our Dropbox problem too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Hey, let's get into some voicemails, huh?
Let's do it.
Hey, it's the real Buff Bagwell calling back in. To my to Wrestling with the Odds, my favorite gambling podcast with, Alvin and Josh.
All right.
Love listening every week and hearing you guys predict the winners. I just wanted to set the record straight. Again, I'm the shoot Buff Bagwell. On all this hubbub about my arrest recently. See, I was out, I was jogging, lifting weights and doing all that at the same time. And I heard a commotion, and there was an old lady up in a tree with a puppy. And she was like, Buff, save me. And I was like, you got it, lady. And so I was up there, and then the cops showed up in the fire department, but by the time they set up, I was already done. And as I was climbing down, the police officer's like, hey, you're the stuff, aren't you? And I'm like, I sure am. And they were like, hey, you got arrested for a DUI like 10 years ago. And I'm like, I sure did, officer, and I did my time. And they're like, no, you didn't. I was like, you got me. So I told them I would come in and meet with them, and I sure did. And I signed a few autographs, and no biggie. As I'm sitting here in my palatial mansion, being the real Buff Bagwell, listening to Odd Wrestling, my favorite YouTube show about weird old school wrestlers, with my guys, Ed and Jose. Just wanted to let you guys know that's nothing. Me, the real Buff Bagwell. I'm on the sober train. Make sure to check out me and my boy Riggs, American Males 2023 comeback. and buy a cameo for me, Buff the Stuff, baby, NWO for life, too sweet. This me, the real Buff Bagwell, timing out. When the fuck do I get paid for this thing?
Again, I am honored that the real Buff Bagwell called our show twice. And he sounds like a very loyal listener. Or my name isn't Alvin, I swear. Like, I stand by that statement.
I was going to say he sounded actually very coherent.
Yeah.
So I guess this week it had come out that Buff was arrested 2 weeks ago for an incident of driving under the influence of drugs and speeding. And whoever runs Buff's social media, I don't know who it is because they have me blocked, did state that they wanted to clarify that they are currently 11 months sober. I see there's news out there that I had to spend time in jail for a DUI, but the original offense... Okay, so... But this was from the original offense years ago. I did get a recent sanction, I think that means citation, because I didn't document a recent trip out of state properly.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows, Joe, sometimes you go to jail and you get out, and then like a couple years later, they're like, oh, our bad, you were supposed to have like another week, and then you go back and you do it. It's like you're just like a checkup type of deal. Everybody does that.
I like to think and hope that Buff actually is getting his life together and that things are going okay. I don't think they are, but I hope that they are.
Well, again, I'm willing to take what he just said on our voicemail at face value, and everything seems on the up and up.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Thank you for the call, Buff. You're still the stuff, and you're always NWO for life.
Yeah. Is Judy Bagwell still alive?
No, she passed earlier this year.
Oh, my condolences, Buff.
All right, next call.
Hey, guys, it's Ben. And what a week in the world of... I'm not going to do this anymore. You know what's going on here. Okay, so here's this week's question. If you were recasting Jaws now, who do you have play the big three? I got Michael B. Jordan as Brody, I got Steven Yeun as Hooper, and I got Michael Shannon as Quinn. All right, I think I'm going to listen. Thanks, bye.
I saw this discussion in our award-winning Discord earlier this week, and Joe, I have to recuse myself because I've never seen Jaws.
Holy shit.
I went on the Jaws ride in Universal back when that was a thing. Did that a couple times, but I've never
Did you propose to someone when the shark jumps out of the water?
Well, I was probably like, I think as my oldest, maybe 14 or 15, so no, that was a negative. I have my picture in front of the big shark that they had hanging, but I've never seen the original nor any of the sequels, so I can't participate in this one.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got?
Say you should watch the first Jaws, and you shouldn't watch any of the other ones, but you should definitely look at a picture of the house that Michael Caine bought with his paycheck for Jaws 4.
Okay.
It's
a big one?
Yeah, it's a big house. So I saw, I like Ben's choices. I saw some of the other people make some of their choices. I'm going to go a little stunt casting here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to say above the title, WWE Films presents The New Day in Jaws. Big E, Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston. There you go. There's your movie. You go a little humor. You do some nods to the original. We saw their acting chops in that Netflix special about The Undertaker. I think taking on a giant great white shark that can somehow remember things and survive being blown up. Spoilers for a 50-year-old movie. Anyway, New Day is who I want in my big three for Jaws. And, pick whoever you want to play whoever you want. I say it doesn't matter. They're playing themselves, right?
Have it be like It's Always Sunny, where one of them's playing one role and then a few scenes later they're playing a different role.
Like the Always Sunny Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks, Ben. Next call.
Hey, Adam and Joe. How's it going? Hope all's well. It's your buddy Kenny. First time, long time. I haven't been watching a ton of wrestling up until this past week, where I went to both the Ring of Honor and Collision with the rest of the Phil-pilled colliders in the state of New Jersey.
Oh, no.
It was a good time. Lots of wrestling. A couple sections of, like, super douchebag wrestling fans, but that's just to be expected, what happens sometimes. So it's all good. Love seeing Eddie Kingston beat the shit out of people in Japan. It's pretty awesome. Cash in on that however you can. And I got a question for you guys. If there was one fast food franchise that you could obliterate off the face of the earth, which one would it be? Mine, Chick-fil-A, because I don't eat chicken laced with hate. Get wrecked, bot.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Fuck Chick-fil-A.
Now, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Adam and Kenny. Thank you for your call, by the way. Over the last several months, Chick-fil-A has definitely made some strides, at least publicly, in regards to maybe whatever their history or whatever may have been regarding our, LGBTQ plus type friends and listeners and just people in general. And I did see online that they have gone woke and they are now broke.
No.
So I'm not really sure your feelings in regards to that. Now, I will say this is maybe the most controversial opinion, and I'm sure I will get hate mail in regards to this, hate voicemail, whatever. But the one that I would get rid of, Taco Bell. Fuck Taco Bell. I don't eat spicy food. I don't eat messy food. I don't eat Mexican food. I'm not a Mexican food guy. That's not my thing. And if you are, now listen, I understand a lot of people go there, I can get my Baja Blast, or they're open late, right? Every fast food place is open late, right? If that's your thing, then okay, well, I just like I like the shitty tacos for like a nickel that I can get there, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, granted, they're not open late, but if you go to like an actual family owned and operated Mexican restaurant, which I can guarantee there's maybe at least one within driving distance, probably one that you could see from the parking lot of your local Taco Bell, support them, and you'll probably get better food cheap than you get at Taco Bell, or you might pay like 15 cents more and get actual real food that's not processed and out of a can and whatever it is. Listen, I eat shitty all the time, but I won't go as low as eating Taco Bell.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, Chick-fil-A, they're now woke and they're making steps in the right direction. And
yeah.
I mean, you're still closed on Sundays in observance of some silly little practice from 5,000 years ago. So they're not modern enough yet. But I will say, if we're going to take the corporate hierarchy and corporate mentality away from it and just based it on the food, obliterate all Arby's, because just a photograph of something from Arby's makes me want to like dry heave. So like I'm not a big fast food guy. I've said this many times before. The only place that I go on any kind of regular basis is Dunkin', and I have like breakfast sandwiches. So I guess that is fast food. But like I'll eat McDonald's if I have to. I'll eat Burger King, Wendy's, whatever. But just the sight of anything on an Arby's menu makes me ill. So get rid of Arby's.
Arby's is delicious. You're nuts.
No, that's it's dog food on a bun, dude.
Agree to disagree. You haven't eaten Arby's in a long time. If whatever your memory of Arby's is, or whatever the pictures that you have in your mind are, I think that joke from The Simpsons poisoned a lot of people. Many jokes in The Simpsons about how bad Arby's was has poisoned a lot of people's minds. I say, give Arby's a chance.
Like, who would actually go, like, get in a car, consume gasoline, waste their time, and go and take money out of their pocket to eat roast beef?
They have other stuff on the menu. They've got chicken. They've got fish. They even have burgers now.
But you can get better versions of all of that at other places. You can go to Wendy's for a better burger. You can go to Burger King for a better chicken, or you
can't.
Yes.
Well, all right. I take that back. The OG Long Boy chicken sandwich at Burger King, it's like a top tier food item.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. The one that's like on a hot dog bun. It's like they had the spicy chicken sandwich. I used to eat those all the time when I was really fat. But like you can go to Long John Silver's or Arthur Treacher's for your fish, you know?
I wish we can go to Arthur Treacher's.
So yeah, like Arby's is like, would you like the fourth best version of everything that you can get elsewhere? Come to Arby's. We have everything in one place, but nothing good.
Again, agree to disagree.
All right. Next call.
Next call.
Hey guys, Kevin here. Getting voicemail in late. Apologize. I don't think you've started recording yet, though. So I was just kind of thinking this weekend, because I went to a friend's house and watched some wrestling, and I, watch it here at home, of course, all the time, and gone other places. But do you guys have a guaranteed, you've called it, everyone knows this is where you are, your wrestling seat while sitting down, whether you're watching it on your own or with friends, whether at someone else's house or at your own? Is there a spot that is your spot while watching wrestling? For me, it ends up being the left side of the couch, sitting, laying down across the couch, left side of the couch, even though there is a recliner right next to me. Nope, on the couch during wrestling. When I'm at my friend's house, who I used to do podcasts with, there's a long couch that most people sit on, but I take the love seat that's up against the window and next to the AC and fans and watch it from there. And it's just known that's my spot. So do you guys have a spot, when you're all together for something? Maybe you're all getting together for SummerSlam coming up here in a little bit. Do you have a spot that is always yours, no matter who else is there? That's the question this week, gentlemen. Looking forward to another great show. I'll listen to it throughout my Fridays like you guys are with me every step of the way as the weekends. Bye.
I think Kevin is not just asking about a spot. He's asking about my spot. I'll say there's really... Obviously, if I'm watching wrestling at home, I'm sitting in my chair, like watching TV like normal. But if I'm going out, there's two places I'm going. I'm going to my buddy's that lives like 2 minutes from me and watching something there. And he has one of those L couches and then a chair, like a recliner. And like I always sit on the recliner, and like him and his kid and his wife sit on the L couch, so that's just a given that that recliner's my spot. When I go to DJ's up to soon to be named Network North, there is a spot that I like to claim, which I'm sure you're going to speak about, is just perpendicular from your spot, which is the one chair next to the kitchen counter. But Doug grabbed it last time. He was there before me, that son of a bitch, and he took my spot, so I had to go sit on the couch near the window, and my head was turning right instead of left, and it felt weird the whole night.
So, home, like Kevin, I'm a left side of the couch guy, unless my kid is here, and he purposely steals it from me to fuck with me. He pretty much admits that he does, but as you mentioned, up at soon to be named Network North, I have my couch. It's directly across from TV. It's a one-seater, not a recliner or anything else like that. But I think I just was sitting there 3 times when it would be just me, Brett, and DJ, and as more and more people came up, and I don't get there early. I'm sometimes like the last. They're
always like, "Oh, that's Joe's seat." When other people are there earlier, like whoever, Jenna shows up, or Mr. Tim was there, and they're like, "No, that's Joe's seat." Well, you get there.
If they really do that for me, that is very kind of them.
Yeah.
I don't request that by any stretch of the imagination. I'll sit on the floor, but again, it's going to take all he is to get me back up off the floor if I'm sitting on the floor. Is all.
Yeah. But yeah, that seat, again, it's right next to, not like it's within arm's reach of your chair, but you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That has been my go-to every single time. And it's like, oh, that dude, Doug, if he wasn't so lovable, I would have been mad. But yeah, he got it last time, and I was just like, I get him over on this couch, and it's awkward.
Yeah, lovable is the word that we use for Doug, right?
Yeah, and the problem is, like, I like to lean forward. Sometimes, you're getting a little antsy sitting in a seat. You want to lean forward, but I was on the end of the couch, and then I'm like, I'm blocking Tim's view. And it's like, now I got to sit back, but now I'm not comfortable. Now I got to sit back. It was awkward. I need my seat, DJ. Put little place cards on the seats next time.
I think you just got to get there early enough to call dibs.
Yeah, that too. I don't know. I think I was running late on a Safari last time.
Well, that's between you and the Safari.
This is true. Thanks, Kevin.
All right. It's pink button time. It's time for young Ed.
All right.
Hey, Joe and Adam, it's Ed. I got a new phone, and when it's on speaker, it's louder. It's a lot louder than my old phone. And when Joe says hello when you call, it scared my dog, so that's pretty cool. Hey, so, like, maybe 10 minutes ago, I just finished ordering all the stuff I need for my Colossal Con East cosplays, and I'm getting very excited. And I was just wondering, since this Colossal Con East is going to be the official, soon-to-be-named Network family meetup, what do you guys expect, or like look forward to, or anything? What are your thoughts and feelings on this? Joe, I know you've been to Kalahari during Colossal Con because, we got food and possibly you got a $10 milkshake. I don't remember if you did or not. I just remember the $10 milkshake. And then Words told you to buy the $10 milkshake. Rest in peace, Words.
He's right here on the podcast.
So yeah, like, what do you guys think? Do you know how anime conventions go? What are your thoughts and feelings on this? I'm very curious. Hope there's a K-pop table at the dealer's room, because I'll buy some things. Other than that, I'm not really a stuff person, so like the dealer's room, I just walk around and look at stuff. Hey Joel, it was fun talking to you. And I hope everybody enjoys it on July 30th. Make sure you sign up or re-up for the Patreon. So Adam get a cut of the fucking money.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Look at that. Ed's the company man there. Let me ask you this. All right, so I don't have any expectations to this thing I'm apparently going to now. But, Joe, you know me. And you know what I like, and like I obviously do like stuff, unlike Ed, who's not a fan of stuff. Would I enjoy Colossal Con at all, or would I just go for the company of seeing Ed? I'm not an anime guy. I'm not like vehemently opposed to anime. I'm like, it must be obliterated. But like I don't think I've watched any, and if I have, it's like not jumping out at me. Like, I watch cartoons, but I don't know if I watch any anime, and I'm not down for the scene other than being a fan of Ed. But like, would I be bored instantly, or would there be like anything there that would entertain me other than Ed stuff?
Yes.
Yes to both, or what?
I think there would be things that you would enjoy.
Any kind of example of just something that you might have heard about or seen that I'd be like, Adam would like this. Like whether it be a vendor or a panel or certainly like not the women, but
well, okay, so that was gonna be where I was gonna lean to. We're deep enough into the show. Yeah. I definitely think that you would be an admirer of the cosplay.
Okay, is it like a proper Comic-Con where there's like Instagram cosplay girls?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'm sold.
Okay, I could continue.
Yeah, you can continue, but you've already made the sale, buddy.
But no. So I might peruse a bit, but I'm going there to see Ed's panel, and then there's a wrestling show.
Like at 4 a.m. Ed's panel.
Yeah. And then there's a wrestling show, and I think there'll be people that we know that are in the wrestling show, right?
Okay, is this something that's like that I need to talk to you off the air about, or is this something?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm gonna make a note. Wow, right, and when is this?
I had Ed remind me when we did the Patreon. It is September 9th.
September 9th. Why do I feel like that's something else? September 9th. Oh, no. Okay. I literally have a note in my head that that's when the San Francisco Giants are giving away a Mandalorian bobblehead. Speaking
All
of
right.
that. So that's something that happens on the 9th. But other than that, my schedule's clear.
All right. Good. But yeah, it's going to be a meetup. A lot of folks are going to be there. It'll be a nice thing to get together. And I want to see Ed's panel live, and I want to see Ed walk the entire room.
Yeah, I've heard like so many things about the Ed panels, even going back to the days of PVD, and then like he'll be on other podcasts, Stink Sheet or whatever, talking about them. And like, yeah, it does seem like something you'd want to be there to experience.
Yeah. Now, Ed did tweet out. He said that he just called in, and there's a part in his there's a part where I call and completely forget what I'm saying. Listen to see if you could spot where, and I'll just say yes.
It seemed like a normal Ed call to me, so like it was fine.
But Ed does call back.
All right.
Hey, Joe and Adam, it's Ed again. Adam just tweeted me to ask me if I talked about how he came up in therapy, and I completely forgot. So no, I'm going to do it right now. The $400 Funko Pop was brought up. It was just like offhanded. Like I wasn't like making jokes or anything. I just mentioned it. Something got brought up that brought that up, and I talked about I could never spend $400 on a thing, right? Like on a thing that just sits there. And like most of that is probably because I grew up really, really, really poor. So if I had to spend like $100 on something, like I had like anxiety attacks. Like I'm very nervous about spending money, but I would spend like $400 on like ColossalCon. Like that trip is already cost me like over $500, and I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me. But like spending that much money on a thing would really, really get to me, and I couldn't do it. And we just talked about how like some people are stuff people and some people are experienced people. Mm-hmm. And that we are on two opposite sides of that, Adam. I'm an experienced person, and you are a stuff person. And there's nothing wrong with either. It was just brought up that way. Mm-hmm. My therapist doesn't know who Azrael is, though. So I kind of explained, like, well, Batman got his back broke, and then a blonde guy in a metal suit took over, I guess. Okay, bye.
The fact that Ed even knows that much is awesome.
The fact that he was explaining it to his therapist.
Oh my god, I love that. That was my favorite call ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned this at the top of the show when I was talking about selling stuff, and like, Ed, you make a very good point. Like, there's nothing wrong with being an experienced person. Like, I do like experiences. Like, I love going out to Ohio and seeing you guys and going to AIW or going to an LVAC show or whatever. I'm a theme park guy. I'd like to go to like Disney. Even, you know, I would be a lame Disney adult if I lived in Florida, but like I am also a stuff guy because I like the fact that if I don't like the stuff anymore or like I'm just bored with it, I can at least get something back out of it. You know, like you can't like get back 20% of what you spent on the Twice concert, you know? So like, that's the reason why I like being a stuff person is I feel like it's tradable commodities, but yeah, both of them are good. And I think it's awesome that like that came up in Ed's therapy, like a huge pop.
Yeah. Huge so pop. Thanks everyone for calling. Yeah. So next week, a week today, is an LVAC show at Coca-Cola Stadium in Allentown. So far, we've got announced Cheeseburger versus Speedball Mike Bailey, Damaris Dawkins versus Harleen Lopez, and the Air Show taking on Club Soda of Puff and someone else.
And question mark.
Big Dan's going to be there. Mantis is going to be there. I'm going to be there. And I don't know. Might be recording a little late next week. Again, it's only 4 or 5 matches. Allentown's only an hour and a half away. If things get a little too hairy, I might be Skyping in to Adam from my phone while I'm driving.
That's assuming I don't go and then stay for the Lehigh Valley game afterwards.
And again, that's something that we could also discuss off air, right? So we got that coming up, and then of course, the links in the tickets. If you're a baseball person, come see the wrestling beforehand. Wrestling starts at 5:15 or thereabouts. I think even though it's independent wrestling, because there's an actual baseball game associated with this, that they may be kept to a much tighter schedule. I'm glad that this particular baseball thing, unlike the other ones that I've done before, when we did stuff for Chikara, it's before the baseball game as opposed to after the baseball game.
Oh, really? I didn't know they did them after that. That's risky as fuck, especially with the pace of play back in the day when Chikara was running,
Yeah. But there was definitely a game where it went extra innings. I think it went to like 12 innings, and we were sitting there. We went out to do our matches like an hour and a half after we were scheduled to. But with this,
do you remember roughly? I hate to cut you off. What time you guys started versus what time you ended?
We started at 11:30, and we just burned through 4 matches as quick as we could.
Yeah, it's like we started at 11:30, we were done by 12.
I think we were done by 12:15. It was like zip, 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 get this done with, right? Because the people just want to get the hell out of there too,
Yeah.
But again, weather permitting as well. Let's hope this one doesn't get rained out as well. I'm sure more matches will be announced between now and then. And then again, of course, all roads lead to Steel Stack SmackDown 2 on September 16th, the week after we all go see Ed at Colossal Con. And I'm sure after the baseball show, stuff will start getting announced for Steel Stack SmackDown 2. The show notes are going to have links so that you could purchase up tickets for both of those events.
I didn't mention, I meant to mention a couple weeks ago, but I got my Steel Stacks tickets. I'm looking.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, pre-order is live, but I would not wait on that,
No, especially once things start getting announced. And I'll be honest with you, I can't even tiptoe or pussyfoot around stuff because I don't know nothing yet, because I think everything kind of got fucked up with the drive-in show getting rained out,
Yeah.
So also our TeePublic store, the sale is live as we speak. The sale is good until the end of the day on Sunday. 35% off any purchases. Get all sorts of At Odds with Wrestling inspired designs on everything from shirts to cell phone covers to notebooks and everything in between. You can also help us out by making any and all of your eBay purchases through our eBay affiliate link, which is in the show notes to every single one of these episodes and exists over at Odds with Wrestling or atoddswrestling.com. When you click on links to various merchants on the site and make a purchase, this can result in the site earning a commission. Affiliate programs and affiliations include, but are not limited to, the eBay Partner Network.
Yeah. But what we are affiliated with, Joe? These podcasts that you should definitely listen to. Longbox Heroes After Dark, We Need Wrestling, Porch Talk, Viewer's Choice, Indie Wrestling Guide, Wings on Wings, Hayabusa, and Final Wrestling Place.
I need anabolic steroids from this doctor right now. Anabolic steroids is a logical next step.
But I think that's it for the main show, Joe.
Yep, let's roll into Adam's favorite part of the night.
Some might cost a little. Some might cost a lot. But I'm the $100 Vansky. And your figures will be bought. All right, so as Ed alluded to during the voicemails, I had a big boy purchase a couple weeks ago, totally justifiable, not at all of like a madman crazy purchase. But despite that, I have been trying to be a good boy the last couple weeks. As I mentioned, also, there's been purges and stuff is leaving the house. So I definitely am slowing down the weekly purchases. So this week, only 3 things. And I will start things off I mentioned last week that I bought the San Diego Comic-Con Funko Pops of Rodimus Prime and Galvatron, and I had mentioned to you that there is a shared sticker that is at GameStop, and then there's a convention-only sticker, and I need both of them. Well, I did get the one I needed, so I have 2 sets of basically the same Pops, but there's different stickers, Joe, which definitely matters.
Okay.
Yes. Ask questions. Go ahead.
While
you're doing that, I'll send you a picture to explain.
Has anyone started faking stickers? And is there a way to tell?
Yes and yes. It's always there. I was actually talking to Stefani. She messaged me earlier asking about Funkos. And she actually has like some decent Funkos, like some really impressive ones. And we were talking about how there are lots of fakes out there, especially for big ticket stuff. But here's the thing with faking of not only the stickers, but also like the entire product. Like China is pumping out fakes of like lots and lots of Funkos. But the thing with that is number one, China is not faking anything that is brand new. So, like, the time to buy... Like, if I was to buy that Azrael Funko, like, 2 years from now, I'd be scared to death. And I would have done a ton of research. I would have watched YouTube videos doing comparisons because there's, like, always ways to spot fakes that you can find on the internet. But because that Azrael had just shipped, like, people were just getting it in their hands, it takes a while for, one of them to get over to China, for them to whatever, figure out how to make one and to print it, and for them to leak over here. So that entire process takes a while. As far as the San Diego stuff, it's not like we're talking about this windfall of money where it's like, I got to go and like print these stickers and make them because I'm going to make a fortune off of them. We're talking about turning a $30 Funko into like a $45 Funko.
Okay.
So now, 5 years from now, like if this thing becomes like a $500 pop, like are there then going to be people like bootlegging the stickers and figuring out a way to modify it? Sure, but I don't think it'll ever get to that point. It's just a matter of knowing, hey, San Diego was 4 days ago. There's a lot of product hitting eBay of people trying to make a quick flip. I don't doubt the legitimacy of anything that, I'm looking into right now,
And that's the only thing I'm concerned about, of course. Obviously there's a difference between, repurposed items that go with older figures or repros of people that could fake whatever it is. There's a lot more work that goes into that sort of stuff. And I say a lot more work. You're talking 3D printing an item, but I feel as though a sticker can be faked pretty easily. But, you kind of laid out how maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze, or the turnaround time makes that nearly impossible.
Yeah, and like at the end of the day, if the one that I bought on the top is, let's say it's the common like GameStop version, and somebody went through the trouble to meticulously create an exact copy of the San Diego sticker that is the same size, the same writing, the same gloss, and everything like that, and it's so good that I can't tell the difference, I don't really care.
Okay.
Because again, we're not talking about that like the Azrael Pop where it's like this super limited one of 761. They made thousands and thousands of this. It's just you could only get it if you went to San Diego. It just takes a couple weeks for them to trickle out across the country and onto eBay and whatnot. So it would not be the end of the day. And because I have that mindset, I don't think anybody's going through the trouble of making the copies.
Yeah,
it's just. As a completist of G1 Transformers Funkos, I just want both stickers. That's all.
Mm-hmm. I may have mentioned it on After Dark a couple of weeks ago. The fakes of Pokemon cards that are out there, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because a majority of the people that are buying Pokemon cards, for the most part, are either like parents and grandparents or little kids.
Yeah.
So it's
don't know any better.
Right, they just don't know any better, but because there's been a turnaround within the last 5 years of competitive play, more knowledgeable players playing the Pokemon cards, the people who do the fakes have kind of like doubled and tripled down to make things even more fake. So like you could spot them from a mile away. There was a time, let's say like 7-8 years ago, definitely pre-pandemic, where I could show you a legit and a fake of a Pokemon card, and you could get out the jeweler's loop. And if I told you the only difference was like literally something on the back of the card, you wouldn't have known it unless you looked them over. Now, if I got you something from the current set and a fake from the current set, and I held them up with like my thumbs covering them across the street and you looked at them, you'd be able to spot the fake by a mile.
Yeah, they're getting late. They're not necessarily lazy, but they're just like, hey, even if we fool somebody, we've put in half the work, that we needed to,
Right.
I went. I don't know if I told this story on the air, but I definitely tweeted about it when it happened. You know how they have this at the Viewmont Mall, but I'm sure they have one at the Wyoming Valley and just about every other mall. There's like the sports store that sells very overpriced like football jerseys, baseball like hoodies, hats, and like they always have in their front window like football helmets and maybe some signed jerseys and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not a name brand place like Finish Line or Foot Locker or something. It's like Bills football or something.
Exactly. And like you go in and it's like, oh, here's the section of like, NFL novelty, beer steins. And it's like that type of store. There's one at the Viewmont Mall, and I'll go in there and I'll look around, and they have like a small section. It's like, oh, here's our baseball card section. And it's all just unsold stuff from the late 80s and like the early 90s and whatever. And here's our like Pog section, so it's clearly it's like we're way behind on a lot of trends, but like whoever this owner is thinks that, we're still selling stuff in the 80s and 90s. But the one at the Viewmont Mall had a very small section of Funko Pops, and it was a bunch of like, it was probably like 20 or 30 sports Funkos, and it was nothing impressive. It was just all like, okay, this is a $10 pop. This is a $15 pop. I have this. This isn't worth anything. But like, various degrees of quality. You could tell that these were bought like from somebody coming in to dump their collection. There was a Kobe Bryant Funko Pop, and I saw it, and it was maybe like a 7 out of 10 condition wise, and it was priced at like $30. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure that's a really expensive pop. And I wasn't getting good cell phone reception in the mall, so like I went kind of out towards the food court and I look on eBay, and it's like a $500 pop. And I started to go back in. I'm like, I'm buying that. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Maybe there's a lot of fakes of this out there. And then I went back outside and I went on YouTube and I literally searched like Kobe Bryant fake pop. And there are like 5 or 6 videos detailing like, okay, look at the bottom left corner. How far over is this bar from this color, from this text? If it's like less than a half an inch, it's a fake. And like I spent like a long time looking into it to find out that it's a fake. And I'm sure that I doubt that the retailer knew that. They probably just bought a collection. But I was hoping that I got like a steal, like somebody bought like a collection and didn't know any better. But long story short, yeah, there's fakes out there.
Yeah, and then listen, I wouldn't have mentioned it if I didn't know they were out there. Not part of the network, but go listen to Murder Brian's podcast, Guys, episode 11, specifically Autograph Guys. But there's a lot of discussion and clips that they play of people who put up YouTube videos of them getting duped by collections and stuff that they bought that are obvious forgeries and phonies.
Yeah. If more of the story, if you're a crazy person and you want to spend a lot of money on something, first of all, don't. But if you are going to be like me, do the research first,
Yes.
Or reach out to somebody who actually knows about the stuff.
Right. Don't just
like
don't go to convention and buy wall books for asking price,
Yeah, Joe's making a mention of the fact that I held court in a certain Facebook Patreon group about CGC comics. People are spreading disinformation in there, but I think I fixed it. Joe, did you buy anything?
I did. So a couple months ago, I had bought a second docking station For our Switch, when my kid got a TV for his bedroom, the Switch and all the accoutrements moved into there. And every now and then, we'd want to play something on the Switch, and we'd have to go into his room. And I'm like, docking station's kind of cheap, right? And I will say this. This is on me. I should have learned my lesson. When it comes to Nintendo stuff, you always typically want to buy the Nintendo branded version of them. You're going to save like $2 to $3 by buying like the third party stuff, but it's, like I saw this thing and it's a docking station and I'm like, that's a really good price. It's got really good reviews and everything else like that. Well, it doesn't come with any HDMI cables and it doesn't come with any power adapters or anything else like that. So I had to buy all that stuff extra, and I did spring, the extra $3 to buy a Nintendo branded extra AC adapter, because when we got my kid the Switch the first time, and he was taking his Switch to him to daycare, and it was running out of juice, we got him a separate AC adapter. It was a third-party one, and there was an issue with the first-run Switches and third-party AC adapters where the AC adapters were frying the Switches. So we had that happen to us. We threw that plug away. It was still under warranty. Nintendo sent us a brand new Switch, and I will never recommend or buy third-party power accessories for any of my Nintendo products.
Interesting, because I remember when you bought that, we were like, yeah, fuck those name brands. Go generic, save the money.
Yeah. Again, I'll do it for a docking station because it's essentially just the thing that it sits in, right?
Yeah, it's just plastic that holds it, yeah.
Right, but the plug, a USB cord, you're good, but anything that's actually going to bring power to the item, always go name brand when it comes to Nintendo stuff. Don't take that chance.
Yeah. I might be having to. I didn't make a purchase yet, but I might have to. I have, obviously, I've talked about before, I have the PlayStation 5, and it got very little use as a game console for a long time. It was primarily my Blu-ray / 4K player. But over the last month or so, playing a lot of Grand Theft Auto, I have 2 Sony official controllers. One of them that came with the console, one that I bought separate, and I just basically, when I'm playing the game with one, if the battery starts dying, I switch it out, so I always have a spare, because I don't play co-op games in nobody comes over and plays couch games. I'm like MJF, but one of my controllers was acting up, and I don't want to go into detail, but it was acting up, and I Googled what the solution to it is, and people were saying, okay, yeah, that happens, especially with the earlier generations of the controller. Just do a hard reset, and on the back of the controller is one of those little holes, and you stick a pin in there, and you're resetting it like a router. So I'm trying to do that, and it won't reset. So I Googled that, and they're like, yeah, that's also another problem with a lot of early PlayStation 5 controllers, is that you can't reset them, and there's nothing you could do other than reach out to Sony and get a repair. So I'm like, son of a bitch, I need to scam a new controller somehow at the importer-exporter place. So I'm like, all right, I still want to play GTA, so I have this other controller. Start playing for a couple days, and the second controller is doing the exact same thing as the first controller. So this is 2 PlayStation 5 controllers that retail $75 a piece that are, oof. I don't know how long the PS5's been around, 3 years, but has less than a year's worth of use out of it. Both of them are already almost unusable. So I can guarantee you I won't spend a dime, but I will get those replaced. But yeah, console shit, man. When did that become a business?
I guess. Well, listen, 1985.
Yeah. My next purchase, Joe, and I put this up in the Discord to much fanfare and support. Thank you once again to the soon-to-be-named network Discord for always being supportive of my purchases. But I made the pre-order for the Pro Wrestling Tees Micro Brawler featuring one of the greatest wrestlers and actors of our generation, Jack Spade, as played by Stephen Amell in the hit Star series Heels.
Okay.
You don't have to be a dick about it. Come on, man. I have enjoyment about it,
It's a very bland-looking pop.
Oh, sure. I mean, most pops are.
Micro Brawler or whatever the fuck they're called, right?
Most of them are bland. It's based on a dude who's doing a cheesy indie Southern gimmick,
Yeah. I know you're a Stephen Amell completist, so.
I don't want to say completist because that's a lot of Arrow merch.
Yeah.
Maybe a Stephen Amell as a wrestler completist. Like I have his All In card, and now I have this. So I am 2 for 2 on Stephen Amell's wrestling related stuff.
I wonder where Stephen Amell comes down on the divide between, because he came in to wrestling through Cody.
Yeah, because if you remember, obviously he had the match of him and Neville against Stardust and Wade Barrett at SummerSlam.
Right. Comes into wrestling through them.
Yep, and then goes to All In and he wrestles Glory Hound Daniels.
Right, and then, Cody leaves. I don't know how friendly he and Phil are on the set of heels. I just wonder where Stephen Amell's allegiances lie when it comes to these sort of things.
If I'm not mistaken, Amell was at Mania when Cody was finishing the story. So I don't know if that fills you in or just adds more confusion.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. That's all.
Yeah. I might do a journalism on that.
Well, I should.
What else did you buy, Joe?
All right. Well, I did get one more thing. And, Adam is kind of making a fun here. I don't know if he expected a ticker tape parade because he bought a fucking heels micro brawler. But
maybe not 12 thumbs downs from everybody in the group. That would have been a real pick me up.
But I will give Adam credit for this, of course. There was a bunch of announcements and stuff that we talked about last week that came out at San Diego, even more after we recorded last week. We didn't get into a lot of that stuff, but a lot of the stuff that was announced at San Diego last week, World Wrestling Entertainment-wise, did go up for pre-order. Obviously, there was something that I had my eye on, and Adam immediately is like, Joe, don't be a fucking idiot. Don't get it from ringside. Wait. And I'm like, and I said, I'm trusting you, Adam, right? So listen, whatever thumbs down when it comes to actual dollars spent. Listen, until just this past Tuesday, you were the person that we all went to when it came to fig advice, right? And then you put the link up for when the pre-orders went live up on Entertainment Earth. Entertainment Earth that has a little thing that it's a much lower price for what I was looking for. They do a gimmick where they guarantee that it's going to be a safe package, ringside collectible.
Mint condition guarantee with no extra money spent.
Exactly. And I liked all those things. And, so many times I'm like, I'll pay the suckers premium up front. But I didn't want to be a sucker this time when it came to because I needed that LA Knight basic. I did buy 3 just in case to increase my odds to get the chase, because you can't pick to get the chase or not off Entertainment Earth. But definitely 1 to keep, 1 to flip, and then maybe 1 to give to my nephew to try to get him kicking on a little of that LA NyQuil at 4 years old,
Yeah. Now, question for you: did 3 of them come out to free shipping, or was it still just underneath?
It did come out to free shipping.
It did.
That was the other reason why I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like Entertainment Earth, obviously, ringside will get them first.
Yeah.
Entertainment Earth will get them. Not quite like as late as Walmart or Target will, because Walmart and Target obviously months and months after ringside, but probably somewhere in between. But as you said, they will absolutely guarantee that it's in mint condition, or they will replace it. Because I've had stuff sent that didn't meet the the Adam Van Loop test, and they've offered. First, they'll offer you like a sizable discount to keep it, pro tip there. So if you're a Lucy collector, but in my case, I'm like, no, I would like a replacement. And they're like, no problem. They ship you the replacement immediately. And then they give you the replacement, like the shipping label to send the one you have back. So they're not like ringside where they're like, okay, send the one back. And when we get it and we process it, then we'll start shipping the other one out. Like they're very professional with the replacement process. But I love that like you bought multiples, which I think is very smart, especially to get the free shipping and to have the chance at the chase. Right. But you probably got the 3 of those shipped for less than like the one would have been on Ringside, or maybe 1.5, you know?
So the way the pricing was on Ringside, right, was even if I bought 2, guaranteeing they're like, because guaranteeing the chase was a higher price.
Yeah, wasn't that like $35 or something for a basic?
I think it was 23 for
the regular.
23 for the regular and 28 for the chase. It was $5 more to guarantee the chase, right?
Okay.
So 2 with a guarantee of the chase was the same price as 3 from Entertainment Earth.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm actually on Ringside right now and looking at them just to... Yeah, I gotcha. All right. Yeah, no, I'm glad. I hope... and I think the chases for basics are just 1 in 5, so you have a really good chance of getting the chase.
Right.
You might even get 2 chases in 1 basic. Ooh, what would happen if you got 3 chases? Like, you'd have to kind of be mad about that, wouldn't you?
I'd have to buy a 4th one.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck. And like I said, I've bought wrestling figures a couple times from Entertainment Earth and had no problems. So, yeah, I'm glad that it popped up shortly thereafter, you know?
For sure. And when the Elite comes up, whenever that's going to be, of course, I'll be keeping my eyes more toward Entertainment Earth or otherwise. I did go, I ran by my local Target today. I put up a picture of what the assortments there was, and it was pretty sad.
Oh, I didn't see it. Like, again, I'm just never on Twitter. I'm always in the soon-to-be-named network Discord.
Gotcha.
You got to post it in there. We have the fig discussion board.
I'm still getting the hang of using Discord on my phone.
Gotcha. All right. Anything else for you? I have one last purchase.
That's it. I'm done.
All right. So we put this guy over a bunch on the show. Obviously, we are big fans of Orange Cassidy. I think that goes without saying.
Yeah.
And, over the past couple years, we've had some, but not a lot, of OC merch, figure merch. You know, he has a million T-shirts, obviously, and that kind of stuff, but not a lot of figures. But I've made it a point, like, obviously, we all went out and bought the Unrivaled 3 figure, you know, the first figure with the hands in the pockets and the thumbs up and all that. And then he was also in Unrivaled 8, which had just a different T-shirt, but pretty much the same figure. I have both of those figures mint on card, and I also have both figures signed. You know, like through appearances at LVAC shows, I've managed to figure out how to get those signed. So very thankful for everybody that helped make that a thing. I have the one of 360 bobblehead, and I have the Micro Brawler. So that's everything that Orange Cassidy has actually had, Joe. There's not a lot. It's not like, you know, Darby or Jericho or Mox, where it's like, here's 75 figures. So I kind of, like, I've been lacking. Like, I was like, I need more Orange Cassidy stuff. I even, completely unrelated, like, this has nothing to do with Orange Cassidy, I even tracked down the Wrestle Crate UK Fire Ant figure. I was like, well, I can't find any OC stuff, so I'll buy this unrelated Fire Ant thing. So I have everything.
Scratch that itch for no reason.
Exactly, just scratching that itch. But something was missing, Joe. And I was like, I need something else to fill this hole in my Orange Cassidy collection. So I set an eBay save search a couple years ago, maybe like a year and a half, 2-ish years ago. And I set the save search, and it never went off. Just months go by, years go by, and it never goes off. But, Joe, right after I spent a reasonable amount of money on a Funko Pop, and I said no more spending money. And then right after San Diego Comic-Con happened, and I was like, goddamn San Diego, and I had to spend a bunch of money. And I said, you know what, I'm taking it easy for the next month or so. But, Joe, wouldn't you know it, the alert went off on eBay, and I have the opportunity to purchase the first of its kind to ever go up for sale on eBay. I am now the proud owner of the Unrivaled Series 8 Orange Cassidy test shot prototype.
Oh, cool. I know you're a test shot prototype guy.
I dabble. There's a picture of the prototype as well as the Lucy. The only reason I think it is from Unrivaled 8 as opposed to 3, because again they are the exact same sculpt, so like who's to say? But if you remember Series 3, he has like a bunch of different hands and thumbs up, and has the glasses and the jacket. Series 8, they took away a bunch of the hands and they gave him an armband that's removable. And if you look at the test shot, it has an armband. Now, whether or not that armband is the original that came with the test shot or if it was put on after the fact, I don't know. I'm going to assume it was part of the test shot. So because of that, I will assume that it goes to the later figure, which was Unrivaled 8.
I like the color, and again, it's always interesting to see the test shots, with the color scheme that they used on the prototype. It looks like it's a Green Lantern figure more than anything else.
Yeah, it's very much black and green and like olive green and all that. Yeah,
that's pretty funny. But listen, I know you're a test shot guy, a prototype guy. That's something I've never dabbled in, but I'd say that's a cool piece.
Yeah, I had, obviously, I don't have a lot of wrestling test shots. I have the Iconics, both Billy Kay and Peyton Royce, that's based off of their rookie 2-pack, and I love that. I love that I have those. Those are never going anywhere. But for wrestling figures, the only other ones I had Anna Jay and John Silver, and I paid next to nothing for them. Like, I got a really good deal, and I talked about it on the podcast before. So, like, I honestly, I look at those and I'm like, I don't really want these, so I'm going to sell those. And then this will be, like, one of my only wrestling test shots until I can find an Eddie Kingston one. That's my other holy grail. But because here's the thing, Joe. I mentioned all the Orange Cassidy figs that I have, and I have autograph versions and unautographed versions, and I have this test shot now. So I think it's safe to say that on July 27th, the year of your Lord 2023, I declare myself the Michael Jordan of Orange Cassidy figure collecting.
Do you have the Micro Brawler?
I have 2 of them, yes.
Okay. You said you have the bobblehead. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else.
I went on Wrestling Figure Database, which is the most trusted source of all wrestling fig checklists. And I use that website a lot. And if you type in Orange Cassidy on Wrestling Figure Database, it will show you the 2 Unrivals that I mentioned. It'll make reference to the canceled one that never came out, because obviously AEW Jazzwares constantly announces figures and then drop people from assortments. It mentions the one that is coming out with the All-Atlantic title in the backpack. It shows the bobblehead. It shows the Micro Brawler. For some strange reason, it shows the Fire Ant figure. And then it shows the little Lego style figure that has
the Mini-Mates.
Yeah, the Mini-Mates, which actually the pre-orders just went live on that up on like Diamond Select. I'm not going to pre-order it. I'll just wait until they're like in stores. But based on how long it took the first series of figures to come out from Mini-Mates, it might be another year before we see those. So I have everything that's been released figure-wise, and which I'm sure a lot of people can say they have. But out of those people who have everything that Orange Cassidy has, not many of them have them autographed, but I do. But let's assume, Joe, that some of them have those figures autographed. But they don't have the prototype test shot for this figure. Very unlikely. So that's why I am the Michael Jordan of Orange Cassidy figure collecting.
You make a great case for that.
Yes.
And if
somebody could show me something I don't own,
right, or somebody who obtained these things before you did.
I mean, it's possible. I just think that, like, again, with the fact that they only made 360 of the bobblehead, that a test shot, I'm not going to say a test shot's a 1 of 1. They might be like 5 of them, 6 of them, whatever. There's a lot of them change hands and whatever, fall off of trucks. And then, like I said, the unrelated, but the Fire Ant figure's not easy to find. I'm mentioning that for no reason, because he has nothing to do with Orange Cassidy.
Right.
And then the fact that I got those other the figures signed One of them on my retirement day from commentary. Like, anybody else have that to say that they did commentary with Orange Cassidy, retired at the top, and got a figure signed the same day?
Listen, you're telling a good story.
Yeah, tell me when I'm telling lies, Joe.
Oh boy.
But yeah, that's it. I bought this, and I got a really good deal for it. I will say, it was listed as not as a buy it now. You ever see that gimmick where it's like, okay, here's the starting price of an auction, but we're also going to have a buy it now, have a best offer?
Yes.
Where it's like, oh, you could bid on this, but if you want to blow me away with some big offer, by all means, go ahead. It was one of those gimmicks. So I watched it. Person put it up at a really high price. And the $100 Vansky was like, well, I might be willing to spend that kind of money. But I was like, no, you just spent a reasonable amount of money on a Funko. Don't do it. So I actually just let the auction go, and I didn't bid on it. I was like, if somebody wants to spend that money on it, then they're a bigger Orange Cassidy fan than I am, or they have deeper pockets. So it went unsold. The guy relisted it for the same exact price with the same conditions, X amount starting bid or make a best offer. So I sent a best offer of half of his starting bid, expecting it to be instant declined.
Yes.
But he actually sent back like a counter offer. And then I sent back a counter offer, and we went back and forth like repeatedly, like a game of tennis. And then we ended up settling on like what I think is a very reasonable price, but was well beneath his starting price. So I think I got a great deal on it,
That's how negotiations work.
Yeah. I mean, normally when you see these people on eBay where it's like, oh, it's an auction, I'm just going to make up a number. Starting bid $1,000 or best offer. And then you're like, oh, how about, $900? And like, no, I'll give you for $1 off. Normally there's not a lot of wheeling and dealing because some of these people are a-holes. But yeah, I think I did well on it,
It definitely sounds it.
Especially considering, like I said, honestly, I put this save search up kind of right after the first figure came out. And I've never seen one come up,
Now, I guess since you've got this, and I always ask when it comes to stuff like this, so you got it, is the save search gone, or you're looking for the other one?
It's tough to say because, again, they're the exact same figure. Like the Unrivaled 3 and the Unrivaled 8 are the same mold. Mm-hmm. So if another one popped up and, let's say it didn't have the armband on it, is it the same exact colors? Then I'd probably pass. Is it a different color palette that makes it look completely different, which it might? Maybe I'd be interested. So as of now, the save search will remain.
Okay.
Plus, it's, again, I didn't spend a lot of money on it, so I'm not like, oh, man, I'm hurting from this thing. I got a good price, so I'll leave the save search up, see what happens. Maybe right. Maybe the whatever Unrivaled series he's in next, maybe that's a different mold, and maybe the test shot will come up for that one. You never know.
Yeah, because I'm definitely leaning toward, because, the next one comes with the backpack and the title. So that feels a little bit more of a must-buy, if you will,
Yeah, I mean, I would buy it anyways, as far as the figure, because I will have to order two. One to keep mint on card and one to hopefully get signed sometime down the road so I can keep my streak alive,
Yes.
But who knows? But that's all I got, Joe.
All right. Hey, I'd say this was a full show. You said it was going to be short, and it kind of sort of was. Not really. But thanks, everyone, for listening. This was episode 252 of At Odds with Wrestling. For Adam, this is Joe saying be safe out there and enjoy some wrestling.
You're listening to the soon-to-be-named network, the Lamborghini of podcast networks.